The movie begins with two missionaries, Miss Paxton and Miss Barnes, from the LDS Church, who are shown on their way to the home of a reclusive middle-aged man, Mr. Reed. While walking, a group of teenagers stops them and asks to take a picture. During the photo, one of the girls suddenly pulls down Miss Paxton's frock and runs away laughing. Miss Paxton feels humiliated, gets upset, and starts crying. After this incident, the two sisters park their bicycles outside a house and lock them. They walk to the front door and ring the bell. At that moment, it suddenly starts raining. Mr. Reed opens the door. The sisters introduce themselves. Mr. Reed invites them inside, but Sister Barnes politely says they can only enter if there is a woman present in the house. Mr. Reed tells them his wife also lives with him, so they agree and step inside. Inside, Mr. Reed asks them to give him their wet coats so he can hang them to dry. They hand him the coats, and he goes into another room. After a short while, he returns carrying snacks and says his wife is baking a blueberry pie, which will be ready soon. The three sit together and start talking about religion. As they chat, Sister Barnes notices a sweet blueberry fragrance and comments on how nice it smells. Mr. Reed confirms that it's the pie his wife is baking. Suddenly, the lights go out. Mr. Reed calmly puts on his glasses and assures them this is normal and will be fixed shortly. He continues the discussion, pointing out flaws in different religions, keeping the sisters engaged in a long debate. After some time, the sisters ask if they can meet his wife. Mr. Reed says, sure, and goes into another room to call her. While he is gone, Sister Barnes notices the candle on the table. She spins the jar of candle and sees the word blueberry written on it. She realizes that the fragrance they smelled was not from a pie but from the candle itself. Just then, Mr. Reed returns and tells them the pie is ready, and his wife is calling them inside. As they prepare to go with him, Miss Barnes makes an excuse about receiving a phone call, and the two sisters stop at the gate. Mr. Reed says, okay, and goes back inside. Both of them walk toward the main door, but when the sisters try to open the gate, they find it doesn't open at all. They search for a lock, but there is none. No matter how hard they push or pull, it won't open. To make things worse, their phones suddenly show no network. Miss Paxton says, we must go back and ask Mr. Reed to open it for us. The sisters go back inside and tell Mr. Reed that they received an urgent call from their church and need to leave right away. Mr. Reed replies that they have only just started their discussion, but then he says it's fine and they can go. They quickly grab their coats, but when they check for the bicycle keys, something strange happens. The keys, which should have been in Sister Barnes's coat, fall out of Miss Paxton's pocket instead. Both of them realize something is wrong. They ask Mr. Reed to open the front door, but he explains that the door has a timer system and it will not unlock until morning. He then suggests they use the back door, but when they open both of the back doors, they find that each one leads only into a basement. They are shocked and confused. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to the church, where a man is doing some cleaning work. He looks at the attendance list and notices that Miss Paxton's name is missing. He frowns, realizing she should be here at this hour. Back at the house, Miss Barnes pleads with Mr. Reed to let them leave, reminding him that many people know exactly where they are. Mr. Reed responds calmly, saying that if they cannot decide which gate to choose, he will help them. He sets a table with different versions of the Monopoly board game, along with several religious books. He explains that all of these are simply iterations of the same thing, each one made from a previous version, but changed by different creators. He asks Miss Barnes to hand over the Book of Mormon, explaining that it's simply another version of the Bible, much like how new editions of Monopoly are released. After this, he writes the word belief on one door, and disbelief on the other. He tells them that if they believe there is a God who watches them all the time, even when they are alone doing some personal things, a God who hates certain people, even though he created them, a God whose ego is so big that he only gives blessings when people beg for them, then they should choose the belief door. But if they think there is no God, no afterlife, no heaven or hell, and that everything is meaningless, then they should choose the disbelief door. He grabs the Book of Mormon and throws it to the floor, sneering that it's nothing more than a mere ornament. Miss Barnes quickly moves to pick it up, and as she does, she notices a sharp object lying nearby. She discreetly slips it into her coat and hides it. Miss Paxton immediately walks toward the disbelief door and urges Miss Barnes to follow her, saying that Mr. Reed is right, and they should just get out of there quickly. But Miss Barnes instead goes to the belief door. She asks Paxton if she truly believes in God. When Paxton quietly says yes, Barnes replies that they should be honest and let God decide what happens to them. Together, the sisters descend through the belief door and enter a strange underground basement. Inside the basement, the sisters glance around nervously. A small window catches their eye, and they desperately try to climb up and escape. But it's too high, and their attempt fails. The room feels strange, cold and unsettling. Miss Barnes secretly passes the sharp object to Miss Paxton and whispers that, when she gives the signal, she must strike at Mr. Reed. Suddenly, a door opens and a woman dressed in strange clothes enters, holding a pie in her hands. She walks in silently, places the pie on a table and then sits down in an odd, stiff manner. Both sisters are scared and confused. Moments later, eerie music begins to play, and Mr. Reed's voice echoes through the room. He tells them that the woman standing before them is a living prophet, chosen by God. The woman rises, takes a seat on the chair, and begins eating the pie. As she eats, Mr. Reed's voice echoes through the room, declaring that the pie has been poisoned and that she will soon die before their eyes, only to return to life again. He tells the sisters they are about to witness a miracle, and that they must serve as witnesses to this truth. The woman suddenly collapses on the table. Mr. Reed orders the sisters to check her pulse. Terrified, they step forward and confirm that she is dead. Reed confidently tells them not to worry, because she will soon come back to life. Just then, the doorbell rings upstairs. Mr. Reed quickly leaves the room to answer it. Standing at the door is the church worker who had earlier noticed Miss Paxton's name missing. He asks Reed if he has seen the sisters. Meanwhile, in the basement, Paxton and Barnes rush toward the stairs and scream desperately for help, but their voices fail to carry beyond the walls. Mr. Reed calmly tells the church worker that nobody has come to his house all day. Satisfied, the man leaves. Reed then returns downstairs. When the sisters turn back toward the table, they are horrified to see that the woman who had just died is no longer lying there. Both gasp in fear. A moment later, the woman suddenly appears, standing right behind Miss Paxton. The sisters scream in shock as the woman whispers strange, unsettling words to them. "Conductor, white cloud, this is not real." Reed enters and takes the woman gently, leading her away to another room. He then turns back to the sisters and proudly says that they have just witnessed a miracle. He tells them he can help them see the real world that exists after death, but for that to happen, they must die first. He assures them that they will come back to life, just like the woman. Miss Barnes refuses to believe him. She argues that there is no such thing as miracles and accuses him of deliberately keeping the woman in that condition. Reed stares at her for a moment. Just as Miss Barnes is about to signal Miss Paxton to attack, he suddenly pulls out a blade and slashes her throat. Blood pours out as Barnes collapses to the ground. Miss Paxton screams in horror and runs toward the stairs. She rushes to the upstairs gate and struggles to open it, but the lock does not budge. Crying and panicking, she bangs against the door, but it is no use. Finally, exhausted, she slides down and breaks into tears. Mr. Reed calls her from below and says, "Come here, Miss Paxton. Miss Barnes will be alive again in a few moments." After some time, she gathers courage, wipes her tears, and slowly returns downstairs. When Miss Paxton comes back downstairs, she finds Mr. Reed calmly sitting beside the lifeless body of Miss Barnes. Mr. Reed said, "Don't worry, Miss Paxton. Miss Barnes will be alive again in a few moments." Moments later, Mr. Reed says, "I think I made a mistake." He lifts Miss Barnes's arm, takes the blade, makes a deep cut, and then slides his fingers inside. To Paxton's horror, he pulls out a small microchip pin. Paxton gasps in shock, unable to believe what she is seeing. Reed holds up the chip and tells her, Miss Barnes was never real. She was nothing more than a program, like an NPC in a simulation. That's why she can't come back. He explains that everything around them is part of a controlled system, but Paxton is different. According to him, she is real, and she has the chance to reach the real world. Miss Paxton, shaking, tells him that this is only a theory. Whether to believe in it or not is a personal choice, just like religion. Mr. Reed smiles and agrees, saying that she is right. Believing in his theory is just like choosing a religion. It is faith either way. He then asks her about the miracle she just saw earlier. Paxton takes a deep breath and tells him that at first she believed it, but later she realized something else. When the churchman came to the door earlier, Reed must have swapped the woman's body somehow, and when they returned to the basement, the woman's head was lying differently on the table. Paxton insists that the so-called miracle was staged by Reed, and the woman was only following his script. Reed listens carefully, and then nods, saying, "So, according to you, there must be a hidden door in this place." Paxton looks around the basement, searching. Suddenly, she notices water dripping from the ceiling onto the floor. She drags the table away and wipes the wet spot. Beneath it, she discovers a handle. She pulls it, and a hidden hatch opens. Reed smirks and tells her, "If you're right, then the dead body of that woman should also be inside that hidden cellar." Paxton nods and says, "Yes." Reed then warns her, "If you're going inside, prepare yourself to discover one of the true religions of the world." Paxton swallows her fear and steps down into the dark cellar. There, she sees the same woman's dead body lying on the ground, exactly as she had suspected. She watches above as Reed looks down at her, then he closes the hatch above her. Paxton quickly switches on her phone's torch and continues walking deeper. She finds a gate and pushes it open. Inside, she finds strange paintings and unusual religious objects scattered around, giving the place a disturbing feeling. She keeps moving forward, opening more doors one by one. Finally, she comes across another door secured with the same lock they use for their bicycles. Paxton reaches into her pocket, pulls out the key, and unlocks it. The door creaks open, and what she sees leaves her stunned. Inside are rows of cages filled with prisoners, locked up like animals. The air is cold and damp. Some of the people shiver uncontrollably. Paxton quickly removes her coat and drapes it over one of them. Just then, Mr. Reed enters through another door. He looks at her and calmly asks, "Now tell me, Miss Paxton, what is the true religion?" Paxton turns to him, her voice trembling but firm. She says, "When you took our coat at the beginning, you hid our bicycles, and you placed the key in my pocket, you made me stand here, you've controlled this entire story from the very start. And now you want me to say it. The true religion is control." Reed smiles and nods, replying, "Absolutely right. Religion is nothing more than a system to control others." Suddenly, he grabs one of the prisoner's hands, takes out his blade, and slices off the prisoner's finger without hesitation. Paxton watches in horror, her heart racing, as Mr. Reed steps closer, gathering all her courage. She suddenly drives the sharp object that was given to her by Miss Barnes straight into Reed's throat. Reed staggers back, blood gushing, while Paxton seizes the chance to run. She rushes toward the staircase, climbs up, and blocks the gate by dragging a table in front of it. Then she tries another door, only to find that it too leads into the same basement. Paxton goes down again and sees that the cellar door has been left open. As she turns around, she suddenly finds Reed standing right behind her. Without warning, he plunges the blade into her stomach. Paxton stumbles back, collapsing against the wall, bleeding and gasping for breath. Reed also drops to his knees, clutching his wounded neck. Both of them are now weak, sitting opposite each other in pain. Reed crawls toward her slowly and whispers, asking her to pray for the two of them. Trembling, Paxton folds her hands and begins to pray quietly. Reed comes closer, raising his blade to strike her again. But suddenly, a wooden spike studded with nails smashes into his head. Reed falls to the side, dead instantly. Paxton looks up in shock, and sees that it was Miss Barnes, somehow still alive in her dying state, who struck the final blow. Barnes collapses to the ground, her body finally giving up. Paxton crawls over, takes Barnes' head in her lap, and with tears in her eyes, thanks her. Barnes slowly closes her eyes and passes away forever. Paxton sits there for some moment, broken but alive. Then she forces herself upstairs. She finds a small wooden model of the entire house, detailed with every room and door. She examines it carefully, and notices a tiny vent-like window marked on it. Searching the real wall, she finds that window, pushes it open, and crawls through. After struggling, she finally makes it outside. She steps into the fresh air, exhausted, bloodied, and trembling. She sits down in the open, and takes a deep breath. At that moment, a butterfly gently lands on her finger. Paxton stares at it, tears rolling down her face. She takes it as the spirit of Miss Barnes, staying with her one last time. Share your thoughts in the comments and like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Story Crax. We'll be back soon with another amazing news story.